I don't think property management is easy. I think it can be easy if you remove the tenants, the landlords, the vendors, code enforcement. Am I missing anything?
If you remove property management.
If you The views expressed by the host and or guest are their own and do not represent any organization they may belong to. Welcome to the first Property Management Uncensored podcast. I am your host, Phil Kazmierczak with Atlantic Sotheby's International Realty Property Management, along with our first guest, who is not here voluntarily.
Against my will, might I add.
Very much against her will. Samantha McKinney, she has been with us for a little over a year and a half and serves as a property manager for our company. Do you enjoy being here, Samantha?
In this room currently,
or
like at the company?
Yeah, let's do this first. Do you like being in this room? No. Why don't you like being on a podcast?
I'm awkward.
That's what makes it work.
We don't do phones for a reason.
True.
I can look the part, but I'm not going to talk the part.
Well, we'll see. What about property management? Because you were in property management for a while before you joined us, and then I think you swore it off, and then you came back.
I did. I swore it off, and then I interviewed here with Atlantic Sotheby's, and it was a whim thing. I was like, I can't be jobless forever. I didn't want to do property management anymore, but I didn't know quite what I wanted to do. And you sugar-coated it, but it was sugar-coated, and it's still sugar-coated. I mean, I love working for the company. Property management is not for everybody, though. It takes some tough skin.
And we're going to get to that in a little bit. And I think that we run it differently than other property management companies, and we'll get to that in successive episodes. But today we just want to do an intro overview of property management, and we're going to dig right into it with some crazy stories. So what do you think is one of the craziest property management story that you have?
I was going to court once we had a tenant who... I guess got aggressive. You know how when people don't get their way, they set out on a mission to make your life miserable. Mm-hmm. They set out on a mission to just make things as difficult as humanly possible. And we were at court and we were in front of the judge and they wanted to make everybody's life difficult. And so at the end, the judge kind of gave up and was like, we're ruling in favor of the property manager. And on the way out, the tenant started getting irate about it.
Started running their mouth.
Yeah, they did. And so the judge actually had the bailiff go and arrest the tenant for insubordination of the courtroom.
I love that. It happens.
Yeah.
It does happen occasionally. These judges, they have to hear everything, every excuse. We think we hear a lot of excuses. I'm sure they hear a ton of excuses as well, and they just get tired of it. So that judge sounds like they were just over it that day.
It was just like a little, it's like, right from wrong, It's a judge. There's certain things you just don't say in a courtroom.
Well, I'm sure they had 24, 48, or 72 hours to think about it.
Yeah.
In those lonely, cold jail cells.
Yeah. And then we never heard from them again.
Well, they were in jail.
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
I wonder how long they were there.
I think mine, and I did a video on this last month. We had a tenant that faked their own death. And it wasn't something that we started. We didn't contact them, and no one. The owner actually contacted us and said, "Hey, a neighbor reached out. There was a hearse at the property, the casket or coffin, whatever." And it was all an elaborate plot by the tenant to get out of paying rent. So, and we did everything legally.
They rented a hearse?
No, yeah, they rented a hearse. They did everything allegedly.
That's wild.
And we didn't know anything about it. And then a year and a half, maybe 2 years later, I can't even remember. I was sitting at my desk and the phone rang and I looked over it and I saw the tenant's name and I was like, he's dead. So I'm going to figure out what's going on with this because generally, as you discussed earlier, I don't take tenant phone calls. But I was like, I'm gonna answer this call. And it was the tenant. And he was like, man, I was in a bad situation. I just had to get out of it. So, and then we found him, got a judgment, and the owner got his money. So it had a happy ending.
I mean, but
after he was dead.
Asking for a friend, did he get out of a lot of life stuff? I mean, did it work for a while?
I guess it did.
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. I think it did. I don't know. I can probably call him and ask him.
That is wild.
It is crazy. People do when desperate people do desperate things.
Yeah, that is true.
And a lot of times I think people, they think it's a really serious situation, but it's really not. They just need to talk to someone and be honest about their situation, and then we're able to help them. But this guy, and it was only, I think, after damages and everything, it was only $5,000 or $6,000. It was not.
That's manageable.
It was the rent was only like $1,300 because this was back in 2017. $1,300.
What a beautiful time.
That was when rent was affordable.
Right? What a beautiful time.
Yeah. And now, I mean, that same property would probably
You don't think logically in those moments, though, where you're just, everything feels so overwhelming. So, like, I get it as a person, but as a property manager, we're like, just fix it.
Right.
So.
We want to get to the end result as fast and cleanly as possible.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
That's my goal. Anyway.
I mean, I want it cleaned up just as bad as they do.
Right. Properties that are sitting vacant, properties that have tenants not paying rent are not doing anyone any good. So let's get to a solution that works for everyone as fast as possible.
Yep. And I mean, let us know. If we're aware, we can let everybody else, be aware of the situation, and it just makes it better.
So much easier. So you were in property management. You didn't know what you wanted to do. You're back in property management. What is something that they don't tell you before you go into property management?
How much you'll have to hold your composure.
I think that's a great answer.
When people are just holding your composure. That's all. There are so many situations where I've had to hold my composure when it's been insanely hard.
Absolutely. The emails that come across or the text messages we'll get, I can't believe people would send things like that.
Absolutely. Like, flabbergasted is a good word that I like to use because some things are just, they flabbergast me.
I don't even know if I told you this, but I was collecting, I was doing everything myself with all the leasing, and I collected a photo of the driver's license and social security card, which of course we do, and instead of I got the driver's license, but instead of the social security card, I had a not suitable for work photo accidentally sent. I just responded, I don't think you meant to send me this.
What was the response back?
I got the social security card after that.
I think that's where I would fake my identity. That's where I would rent that hearse and I would be out.
They did. I don't think they got approved. And it had nothing to do with that, but I don't think they got approved because I can't think of what tenant it was now. So they must not have been approved.
I mean,
I wouldn't have recognized him unless I saw that photo anyway, though. So I don't know. I think that's a good one. What they don't tell you is hold your composure. Also, the holes people will dig themselves in to avoid the truth.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Like, just tell the truth. It's not hard.
The amount of things, the repetitiveness. It's redundant. It's repetitive. There are questions that I've gotten that I just never thought I would have to answer in my life. I mean,
with adults. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. I have two small children, and sometimes I feel like they logically answer their own questions.
Yeah,
but.
And when we're doing this podcast, there's a lot of podcasts out there, a lot of them that focus on property management, and they talk about all of the good things, people building wealth and buying another property, doing a cash out refi, buying another property, and it's just all successful. And that's fantastic when it happens. But I wanted this to be Property Management Uncensored because we're going to talk about everything.
Realistic.
We're going to talk about everything that can possibly happen, because things do happen. We do have evictions. They're very, very rare, but they happen. We have properties catch on fire. We just had one 3 weeks ago in our portfolio, not one of ours, fortunately, but we just had one. We had a shooting last month, I think. Mm-hmm. Things happen. Those are the things. That's how you get the experience when things go right all the time.
Yeah, the mom shot at the son.
Yes.
That was a wild one.
That was a wild. It's not our story to tell, though.
I know. There's so many stories, though. Yeah. So many. We could sit here all day if we thought about it.
I will have that property manager on, and she can tell us that story.
That would be lovely.
That's going to be a good one. That'll definitely be a good one. So we're going to talk about everything that happens in property management, not just the good. We're going to talk everything. So let's talk about some myths in property management. 1, property management is easy. Do you think property management is easy?
No.
I don't think property management is easy. I think it can be easy if you remove the tenants, the landlords, the vendors, code enforcement, the court system. Am I missing anything?
If you remove property management.
If you remove the whole process, then property management can be pretty easy at that point.
There's just so many hands and so many different people that you have to manage and
Nosy
deal
neighbors.
with to keep, the neighbors, the owners, the tenants, the vendors, like to keep everybody in sync all at once. It's not easy, but it's doable.
Yeah, it's absolutely doable. We've done a great job of growing over the years. When I started in 2016, we had 90 properties, and now the portfolio is several hundred properties.
And several hundred gray hairs.
It's several hundred gray hairs. Just for Men makes a fortune on a lot of property managers with the guys that do it. Another myth, anyone can be a property manager, and it takes a special type of person to be a property manager. If you're looking at DISC assessments and what those personality types are, high I's, traditionally not great property managers. You can be a great realtor or a great sales agent, but traditionally not a great property manager, which is more of a C-type personality, someone that is going to be much more organized, like you and your paper calendar.
And you and your whiteboard. The amount of things, though, that I have learned doing property management, even I did it for years before, but coming here and the way that we work differently has just, I've learned so many different things.
How do you think we work differently than other companies without saying the other company's name, obviously?
We have processes, and we stick to our processes. It's, you have the same expectations across the board. You do the same thing so that you know what to expect and everybody else knows what to expect, and it makes everything more uniform. That goes for owners, vendors, tenants. When you set an expectation and you stick to it and everybody knows that, it makes things easier. I
feel like a lot of it, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way whatsoever, but I think when you're like teaching kids how to do something, they like knowing they're doing the right thing. They like that praise that they're going to get when they've done the right thing. And it's it's the same thing when you're going through working with tenants and owners. They want to know that they're doing the right thing. But you have to keep strict with any type of process or procedure, because property management only works, if there's one quote from this whole thing, property management only works when it's consistent. That's the only way it works.
Yes. And I mean, even going back to what you said with the DISC assessment, that's not something that I've heard of another company doing. And I think that was really smart to just make sure that everybody meshes as a whole, like as a team. I think that's great.
And our team's been here. I've been with the company in property management since 2016. I think Hans was after me, maybe 2018. I don't know. Melissa, you, Zaida.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's been with us for, I think you were Zaida.
Zaida's the newest.
And she's been with us a year and a half. And you're over a year and a half now. So we don't have turnover for the most part. For a property, when the average property manager, depending on the stat that you look at, the average property manager is in their position for 2 years. I've been in this position for 8 years. So something is working. Yeah. Because normally people just give up and they have a breakdown and they move on or something else to another company.
We definitely have our breakdowns, but we pick it up and we move on.
We have a crying closet in our office, so
15 minutes allotted only, though.
That's right, just 15 minutes. Don't go into that 16 minutes.
On special days, you give me 20.
Only at the beginning or end of the month.
That only when you know I'm at the end of my rope.
Yeah, that's it. Other times, it's just 15 minutes. Another myth. And this is, we talk about the good, the bad. When you hear about property management, you hear a lot of the bad. You hear all tenants are hassles, and that is not true whatsoever. And I know we talk and, have a good time and everything, but realistically, 90% of our tenants, probably more, are fantastic.
Yeah, I made a really great friend out of a tenant that we had.
Yeah.
So I think that they're great.
They are. It's just like that 5 or 10% that take up like 90 or 95% of your time. That's where the issues lie.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's really not even that many, and it's not consistent, right? So.
Right. Absolutely. Property managers can do it alone is another myth, and that's absolutely not true. You need a team. You need a team of people if you want to be successful. It can be.
Yeah, do you remember that time you just picked up and left me to go to DC? Property managers can't do it alone.
Bye.
But I'm going to leave Sam for a year to do it alone.
It was a year and a half and you did fine.
That was the test.
That was the test. You passed, so I came back.
Thanks. I'm glad to have you back.
I am glad to be back. The last thing I want to cover, I don't know how we're doing on time at all because I haven't paid attention because I've been having fun. But the last thing I'm going to cover in today's inaugural episode, what do you keep in your car?
Oh, Lord. My life, my whole life. I got a step stool. I got light bulbs. I got tape, batteries. You need a stun gun, a taser. Toilet paper, paper towels, Windex, Lysol, bleach. Trash bags. Trying to think. I got a broom, dustpan. I mean, I have a caddy of my life in that car.
You do? How do you fit your kids in your car?
I don't. They stay back.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I think I started with batteries, and then it grew from there. And I remember there was a property in Portsmouth, and there was an issue with a HVAC display, whatever, and it just needed new batteries. And that was like one of my first weeks on the job. I was like, oh, I guess I should carry batteries in case I need to replace these in a smoke detector. Or
okay, but you want to know what? Every time that I do need one of those light bulbs or something, I have everything. Mm-hmm. But I'll be missing the specific size for every single time. So I have to go back to the store. I don't win. I don't get the winning end of it. I always lose still, but I mean I still have everything.
That's
so if you ever need something, just go rummage through the trunk.
That's fine. All right.
What do you keep in your car?
Nothing. I just got back.
I am the boots on the ground.
But I can tell you that I had a step ladder, light bulbs, broom, dustpan, Windex, paper towels, and most importantly, toilet paper.
Toilet paper. Yeah.
Always needed.
Yes.
You never know. You never know.
But then I go to use the bathroom and I can't flush because the water is not on. I always lose.
And that is the life of a property manager. It always feels like, because we're in the middle. We don't make the ultimate decisions for the most part. It's up to the landlord. Yeah. And the tenants want to blame us for everything, of course, because we're in the middle.
Yeah.
The landlord's like, and the tenant's like,
You have to be okay being the villain sometimes.
Yes. And I think we're okay being the villain occasionally.
Occasionally.
Samantha, thank you so much. This was fun. This is our first episode of Property Management Uncensored. Coming to you weekly from now on, I'm Phil Kazmierczak with Atlantic Sotheby's International Realty Property Management.
Goodbye.